welcome back to another episode of Learn with Shavern. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about tithing, the correct way of tithing, right? Because a lot of us, if you have any type of religious foundation, you're always told that you have to give 10% of your finances to a church or to God, right? So we're going to talk about today, we're going to visit that topic and the correct way of tithing. Okay, so let's visit this. In the Christian Bible, it says you want to tithe 10% of your income. Now, a lot of us have misinterpreted this tithing thing to think that it's 10% of our financial income. Let me ask y'all something. What is the one thing that you spend daily that you can never get back? Time, right? Time is the only thing that you spend every single day. Once it is spent, you cannot give it back. Now I'm going to do some quick mathematics for y'all real quick, right? And break down this 10%. There are 365 days in a year. We're going to call, a non-leap year, right? 365 days in a year. If you do 10% of those days, that equals 36.5 days a year. All right, let's break it down even further. Most of the months in the calendar year has 30 days. Oops. Right? So 10% of 30 days is 3 days. So can you dedicate 3 days a month to God? If you go to church, technically you do, right? But a lot of us, a lot of people will go to church, say 3 Sundays, and then sit on Saturdays or all the other days of the week, okay? There's 168 hours in a week. 10% of that, 16.8 hours in a week. 24 hours in a day. 10% of that is 2.4 hours a day. The 10% that I mentioned are the 10% that you should be dedicating to God, self, right? Dedicating to meditation, to prayer. Depending on what type of religious foundation you had or have currently, you may have already incorporated to pray multiple times a day. This is great. During that time, you absolutely are dedicating yourself to God. But don't be a hypocrite, right? Don't live one way with God during your time of prayer and another way when you're not, because God is always watching. So the true 10% of tithing is your time. You want to tithe your time to God, right? And I'm not saying you have to go to a church, or you have to go to temple, or you have to go to wherever it is, a mosque, wherever it is you pray, right? I'm not saying that that's where you have to go to give your 10%, but you want to dedicate that 10% to self. Okay, the best thing you can do, the best way you can honor God is by honoring self, taking care of self. Dedicate a minimum 2.4 hours a day to self, whether it's 1.5 hours in the morning, 1.5 hours in the evening, or however you split it up that's convenient for your schedule. But dedicate that time to self and to thinking positively to self, to speaking positively to self, to telling self, hey, you know what, you're amazing. Thank you for being so amazing today. I saw, one of my sisters sent me a meme, and I am grateful for her for sending me this meme because I've actually incorporated this in my own little personal philosophy, right? It was a meme of Snoop Dogg, and he went up on a podium and he was just like, you know what? I just want to thank myself for being so amazing. I just want to thank myself for putting in all this hard work. I just want to thank myself. He just was going on and on about it. And I was like, you know what, Snoop? That's a brilliant idea, bro, because a lot of us forget to thank ourselves for how amazing we are. A lot of us forget to thank ourselves for how hard we work every single day, especially if you have to work for your income, right? If you've never inherited income, whether you own your own business or whether you work for somebody else, right? You have to work for your income. If you have to work for your income and it wasn't inherited, automatically you remove self out of that equation because you become so consumed with work. You have to remember to dedicate time for self, and in essence, you are dedicating time to God, because the best way you can speak to God is through self, through your higher self, right? Remember, I always talk about the conscious and the subconscious mind. So your conscious mind, how you do things, This is how you function. That's when the conscious mind is how you make your decisions of A or B, right? The subconscious mind is what drives how you make those decisions. Okay? That's the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Now, dedicating that 10% to self is the best way you can truly tithe, right? It really hit me and dawned on me a while ago, because like for years and years and years, I promise you guys, like I grew up in a church, okay? I literally grew up in a church, and through my human experience, I am grateful I got to experience a lot of different religions when I was growing up. Mainly due to the family dynamic that I was living in at that time, right? So I went to a Catholic school for like my first grade through 6th grade. I went to a Catholic school, and so like real life Catholic school with the skirts and 5 a.m. mass and the Passovers and all of that. And then like my grandmother's very religious. She was Anglican in the country that she comes from, and then I had a Rastafarian uncle. Like my family dynamic growing up was really interesting, and we all lived in the same household. I had a Seventh-day Adventist aunt that went to church on Saturdays. So like literally I went to church almost 7 days a week, it felt like, right? From school to home and back. Like there was night service, there was Sunday school, there was Saturday service. Like church and religion are a very, very incorporated thing in my foundation. What it taught me though, in my personal human experience, is the beauty of all religions, right? All religions have some type of beauty. I personally, and again, as I mentioned in my previous video, it is not my place to impress upon you guys my beliefs. My beliefs are my beliefs. They're part of my journey. You guys' journey are specific to only you. Okay? So I believe that all religions are very beautiful, and they all have things in them that we can learn, lessons in them that we can learn, and we should absolutely incorporate in them. Every religion definitely talks about tithing, right? In their own form or fashion. Okay, so not all things are literal. We have to learn to remove the veil from over our eyes and see things beyond for what it's actually written in. So, and the 10% of time thing was literally kind of an epiphany. This is my own personal thing now, because I was like, it doesn't make sense to me why God would want money, right? It never made sense to me. What use would God have of money, something physical in this 3D, right? This 3D form, this physical form. What use would God have for that? It makes no sense. But what's something man created that we can never get back, right? We created a clock to measure time. Time in itself is something that we created, right? And in essence, God created it because God created us. So therefore, to a degree, God created time, right? So the best thing we can do is give the one thing that God allowed us to, in essence, measure and create, give that back to God. Okay, that's a true honoring of God. It's not just about, like I said, going to church, reading the Bible, all of that good stuff. All that good jazz is great. They're great for foundations, but don't become consumed in the lessons. Learn the lessons and move on. Okay. There's plenty of things. You want to dedicate that time to self, and time to self can be anything. If you exercise for 1 hour a day or 2 hours a day, if you pray for 1 or 2 hours a day, if you meditate, if you do yoga, all of these things are time to self. That's your 10% of tithing. Every time you take time out for yourself, that is you tithing, giving back to God. That is you giving back to your higher self, which is therefore the messenger of God. That's the Jesus within you, right? You want to take care of yourself all the time. You want to tithe and make sure that you take care of yourself, right? Show yourself that you appreciate you. Show yourself how dope you are. And let yourself know, you know what? And affirm these things. This is something I decided I'm going to share with you guys. So for the past 4 years, I decided that the first week of every year, I don't work, right? I make sure I request that time off for work. I don't care what type of job. I don't care what's going on. I don't work that particular week, the first 7 days of the year. The reason why I do this is because I state and affirm all of my intentions to now set the precedent of my vibrations for the rest of that year, right? How many of us are working the first of the year, the first week of the year? Now we disgruntled and we frustrated, and now we carry that same disgruntled, frustrated energy throughout the rest of the year. Now we snap, boom, whole year going by, and we in the same energy we was in when we first started, right? So I believe in affirming having a good year. I believe in affirming having a great week. I believe in affirming having a great day every single day, regardless of what happens. Because when you align yourself correctly with that frequency, guess what starts to happen? The universe gives it to you. So peace and blessings, family. Again, I want to give shout outs to all of you guys who have been liking, sharing, subscribing. I want to thank you guys for becoming Patreons. I really appreciate all of you guys. Have a wonderful day, guys.